I'm going to start by doing a little bit of an introduction to how What the Tea came to be. And then I'm going to turn it over to our speakers this morning to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right in. So a couple of weeks ago, Keylee um, announced on the Harambe Collective site that she is publishing a book, which is absolutely amazing. And she gave us a little sneak peek into the book. And so I slid into her DMs and was like, you trying to do an author talk? Like, you trying to come on and share with the people the greatness that is your book? And she agreed. And it just so happened that at the same time, I had reached out to Fran and was like, we're going into our month about reimagination. If there is anyone in this group who I know could make people believe that they could be anything they want to be, it's your ass. And so you trying to come by and like bless the people with some type of motivation? And she was like, yeah. And what's interesting, neither of them know this, but they both chose the same date. And I was like, oh, wait, how am I going to like get them both in? And then I was like, oh, I could just do what I think one of my callings is. I could do a talk show and invite them to have a conversation. And y'all, somebody said drop the pre-order link anytime in the group chat. So go ahead and get on that, Keylee, because people want to buy it. But y'all, you know what's so fascinating? What I love about being the founder of the Harambe Collective is when two people who don't know each other can come together as a result of the Harambe Collective and vibe so hard. That shit is amazing. So we had our brainstorming session this week, and y'all, I had to stop them because they was like ready to record the shit in the moment. And I was just like, hold up, it is not Saturday. Ease up, give us a second, like hold your gems until you have the audience to drop your gems too. And so I'm super excited because they have a really beautiful conversation prepared for you. And so if you're here, you're about to be blessed. At the end, there will be a Q&A. So feel free to gather what other questions or thoughts you have, because there will be time to speak to them and to ask them questions. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them and give them some time to introduce themselves. And then we're going to jump directly into our conversation. So whoever wants to go first.
What's good, everybody? Good morning. My name is Franceria Moore, for those that have not met me. Everyone calls me Fran. By day, I'm a learning manager at a national nonprofit, designing and creating learning experiences for organizations who are supporting and serving families experiencing poverty. I love what I do in the daytime, but my passion, my calling is what I do when I clock out. And I still have not quite found the words to describe it, but I am passionate about supporting dreamers. I don't, my dream come true is to have my dream surrounded by a whole bunch of people that I love who've also accomplished their wildest dreams. And so my goal is to bring as many people with me as I can to be the modern day Harriet Tubman, the modern day female Black Moses, and to bring as many of my people as I can with me to the promised land. And so I won't get there alone. And I'm looking forward to looking around and seeing as many of your faces as possible. So good morning. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Fran. Good morning. I am Keylee. I am not Harriet Tubman, though my best friend does believe she might have been Harriet in a past life. But I am a writer, an intuitive, a healer, and I have a dream to help Black women alchemize all of their trouble, all of the strife that we go through, and all of the joy and all of the power that we have. I just want everything to be motivated toward our alignment and our highest good. So that's why I write. Oh my God. Y'all, we could stop right there and like that would be amazing, right? And so one of the things that we talked about during our brainstorming session was the journey that you both took to get to this point. And I think what's so powerful about the both of you is that, oftentimes on social media, we see people's end game. We see that they quote unquote made it. but what we don't see are all the things that they had to do in preparation to get there. And so something that I'd love for you to share with people on this morning is like, what are some of the things that you either deliberately did that prepared you for this moment, or what was some of the shit that the universe was like, you know what, you avoiding this, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring it to you full circle and front and center to prepare you. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, what was your preparation journey like?
I mean, how much time do we have on the talk show this morning? Uh, I personally think that nothing is wasted in our lives. And so my whole life has prepared me for the moment that I'm living now. I think the part where we tend to get stuck, or where I was getting stuck, is that I was in this cycle of believing that I could only have more of what I had already experienced. So I was basing my faith on what I had already had and not what I have not experienced yet. And so a lot of my journey was about moving beyond judgment, and there are a lot of reasons why I had a judgmental mindset, judging everything. I thought that was my rights. I thought that was my calling. I thought I was supposed to judge things as either good or bad. And so I lived life according to this binary that was very limiting. Either it's right or it's wrong, it's left or it's right, it's up or it's down, it's black or it's white. And it's just not true. Life is too nuanced, it's too colorful, for us to be limited that way. And, even in my background as a Christian, releasing that part of us that wants to judge whether or not someone is going to make it into heaven or not. And so a lot of my journey was releasing that, and then also being brave enough to stare in the mirror at myself and go, girl, you a mess. This is not good. For all of the facade, like you said, Keisha, on social media that people tend to put up, which I don't have a problem with. Share what you want to share. A part of it that gets lost is the ability to sit there and see all of the parts of yourself that are not flattering, that are not welcoming to other people. And so I had to face that I had that. For all of the hi, I'm friend, I'm everybody's friend. There are some parts of friend that are also, that need to be um, beat into submission, if we're going to be honest about it. And I am in a place in my life where I am willing to do whatever it takes inside of me, to do some inner engineering inside of me, to have freedom for real, to have peace for real, to have prosperity for real, to have love and joy and bliss for real, and not the facade, not the pretend, not the travel size pack, not the trial portion, but I want the full unadulterated freedom and peace that is guaranteed to me because I'm here. And knowing that I am owed that simply because I'm here. And that is a renewal of freedom every day. It's not something that you attain one time and that's it. It is a fight every day to hold on to that. And that is for you to get you in check. Um, that's all I'll say now, right there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just sit here and listen. Uh, I think something that you just touched on that was really critical for me was, again, that act of witnessing, that like we have the obligation to witness ourselves, and a lot of us don't really take the time. We can fill the time that we need with doing other things for other people, and that could be literally living your life for other people. Like, I'm going to do that because that's what my parents wanted for me. I'm going to do that because that's who people think I am, so I'm going to keep doing it. And again, that facade. So I think one day, so I am a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I am a survivor of white prep schools. I'm a survivor of a white college. I'm a survivor of being Black in America. I'm still surviving all of that. I'm queer, I'm a woman. I'm doing all of these things. And it left me with some trauma. So one day I kind of just woke up and I decided I was going to live from my center, and I was going to live from love. And to do that, I had to stop living in reaction. So I couldn't just react to what other people thought about me. I couldn't react to other people's expectations of me. I couldn't react to everything that's going on outside of me. When you start living from center, then you're actually able to sort of cultivate your own vision of the world that you want to live in. So that is what I had to learn to align with. So I did the therapy. I did all of the journaling. I tried a bunch of different programs. I tried all sorts of things. And then really what changed it was me deciding. So living from center, that's what I do now.
You know, that decision piece is so important, you know, and I think that is what I'm working on. And that is what I feel like right now is a message for people like me, is that there's going to be a point of decision. And throughout my life, when I kind of began to unravel how I got here, anybody ever had one of those moments where you're like, how did I actually end up here? I don't know. And when I started to kind of walk the story back, I realized there were major decision points in my life that I didn't make an intentional choice. I just did the default. I just leaned toward the thing that I recognized that felt familiar to me. And the power of recognizing that I have a decision, that I play an active role in what I experience in this life, is so paramount to beginning to harness the power of reimagining what you want for yourself. Because then you realize that your options are actually limitless, you know, that I could do and be and have whatever I truly want, and not from a cliche, name it, claim it kind of way, but because I am also willing to do the work of becoming who that person is, who's capable of like maintaining that life. Because the worst feeling is when you get something temporarily and your character cannot maintain it. And so again, when I talk about like having freedom and peace and prosperity and wealth and all of the fill in the blank that I want for real, that means that I also have to be the person who's capable of sustaining that. And that means I have to make a choice and not living life through this passive lens, but being very active and being in the driver's seat of what happens for me. It feels like power. I'm a church girl, so I grew up hearing this like fire shut up in your bones. When you really figure out that the God that you're waiting on is you, because God has done everything that God is going to do. The creative power of the universe has done an amazing, awesome job. There's nothing left for that power to do. The one that you've been waiting on is you. And so when you start to realize that, you stop blaming everybody else. You stop blaming God for what you've experienced, and you begin to take accountability for the decisions, you know, that you make. And then and you step into the power of actually living in the choice, good, bad, or indifferent, you know?
And so it's interesting because I feel like what both of you are describing, Keylee, reminds me of the title of your work, which is alignment coach. And so I what I when and one of the things that I share with you is that you saying that you were an alignment coach was my first time ever even hearing of that before. And so what I love for you to speak to specifically is, what does an alignment coach mean and what do they do? And I think it's even more powerful hearing how you chose to live from center. And I'm like, oh, I think I have a sense of what an alignment coach does, but I'd love to hear more from you about what that actually entails.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of started out as like a professional coach. Then back in high school, I was actually writing people's college applications. Yeah, I got rejected from Brown, but somebody whose application I wrote got accepted. But anyway, uh, that's tea. But then in college, I started doing professional work where I was, helping people with their resumes, because that was really just about packaging yourself and framing yourself and helping people decide what it is they actually wanted out of a role and what kind of role they actually wanted to fill and what talents they wanted to cultivate. So then it was sort of that process of identifying talents and aligning the rest of your life to go with it. Like, this is your natural inclination. This is what you want to do more of, even if you're not naturally, if it's not an instant mastery. This is something that you're interested in. This is something that you're called to do. So just do it. So getting people to that point of confidence, that's kind of how I started. The alignment piece really came together with me aligning my whole background. So I was raised in the Unity Church, and that's all about co-creation, very little dogma, all about just like being in the flow of the universe and understanding what it is that you're here to do. So I had kind of gotten divorced from that in my adolescence, and as bad things kept happening to me, quote unquote, I was like, I don't know if I believe that. I didn't stop believing in a God. I didn't stop believing in a higher power, but I was like, I don't know if I believe that. So when the alignment piece came in, I was able to align. All that I'm doing is helping people identify the talents that they came to Earth with, and identify the values that they have, and identify their morals, and help them identify the vision of the life that they want to cultivate. So, like I was saying earlier, reaction is the default. So, of course, it's not the easiest thing to do. But when you wake up every day with the intention to align, your life starts to fall into this image that you've created. You don't really have to. It's kind of interesting because I see kind of the gap in how Fran and I see it, but we're saying the same thing. I approach it from more of a divine feminine approach, quote unquote, in terms of like, I set the vision, it's going to come to me. I set the vision, it's going to come to me. I attract it because I have this attention to align. I think, Fran, you approach it from what I'm seeing from more of a, I'm going to go get it. And that's not a bad thing, but I was just tired of having to go get it. I was tired of having to go get everything.
I'm right here with you, sis. I'm tired. I'm tired of being the hunter.
Exactly. We're not doing it anymore.
No, we're not doing it. I think we are actually very much aligned. I think I call myself a vision coach, helping people become very clear on what they want. Because I think specifically for women of color, it's almost like trying to order at Cheesecake Factory. The menu is too big because we've been waiting so long. We're so hungry. We are owed so much, specifically from the experience that we have in the United States. And so when someone asks a woman of color, what do you want out of life? It's almost kind of like kid in a candy shop. I'm like a deer in headlights. I don't know how to describe it because I'm owed so much. My appetite is insatiable at this point because you've withheld from me. And so what I want to do is help people become clear about that vision, and then begin to do the work of, like what you said, aligning yourself. But that time of willpower and I'm going to get it sheer because of my ambition, I've run out there. I've accomplished all that I can accomplish off of willpower, off of staying up late at night, off of working my ass off. And so now I'm figuring out how to automate that by becoming the person who can attract those things to me. So we're actually saying the exact same thing. You're calling it alignment. I'm calling it a vision. If you get the vision, you can align. And if you align, you got the vision. So we on both ends of the spectrum. We're the same, two sides of the same coin here. Because you're right. I'm tired of being the hunter and gatherer of my life. When all I have to do is paint a new picture and imagine something new for myself.
And it comes to you. So when I talk about living from center and aligning my center, it's about, again, cultivating that vision and understanding my values. Am I living according to my values? Am I letting other people dictate my values? Then my outer world aligned with my inner. So aligning your values with your actions, like it starts to come naturally. So because I feel like, again, Black women, they have been withheld from, and so much of what we do all day is clawing, scraping, pulling, drawing, all of this active pulling from a stone. We're drawing blood from what seems like a stone. When we have this abundant universe, but we live, especially like you said, in America, a country with a lack mentality, like we're always going to be fighting. I can't do that anymore. So I got really tired of that because I lived in that mode for most of my life where I felt like I had to go get it, go achieve, because that's how I felt validated. My external validation like was tied to how much I could produce, how many accolades I could garner. And I got so tired and so burnt out, and you do so much that you end up doing nothing at all. And I don't want Black women to live like that anymore.
So first I want to say, do y'all see how aligned they are? Like, do y'all see how like it just clicks with the two of them? And I love it. And something that both of you have mentioned is this whole concept of like releasing others' perceptions of ourselves. And what I'm curious about, especially in our month of reimagining, how I would love for you to speak a bit to that conception of the need to release those conceptions of who we are, but also how you do it. I think that there's so much of people being like, just release it, which reminds me of church, where it's like, just have faith. But it's like, how do I do that? What are the practical ways that I release within a society where when I step outside, the reality of those preconceived notions are there? And so, what is some of the work of that release? What does that look like, either for you personally or the ways that both of you support other people in doing that release?
Sometimes I end up being like a priest. So I have to tell people it's okay, you're absolved, now you're cured. Like you can, you can release it, because some people still need that external okay because their validation hasn't come from the center yet. And that's fine, because it's a journey, and some days I need it too. But this idea of one day you can wake up and make a decision doesn't mean that you're not going to be still in the process of healing or releasing, or you can't think of these things as a one and done action. Alignment is a practice. It's not like just a one and done action. And you can't think of these things as linear necessarily. You will have bad days, but most of them can be good.
Ooh, such a loaded question, especially in 2020. I think 2020 has been the year of exposure, at least for me, is like seeing the unseen, things that were right there, but we just peeled back the layer a bit. Again, I much of my experience has been shaped by the Black Christian Church, and so I realized that releasing it was so difficult for me because I believed, or I bought into this idea of sin consciousness, that I did something bad, I did something that was outside of uh, God's will, or what was okay and permissible. And so then I would go into long cycles of penance, right? Self-inflicted pain and guilt, and just beating myself up because I believed that was what was necessary to show that I was remorseful for the way that I got off track. What I have learned, and what has been so key in me beginning to release it, and it's kind of like a good cry. And I'm not a crier by nature, but it's like one of those things that once you start, like you're gonna be in there until you get done. And where I had to get was a point of realizing that the concept of sin is not because you missed following a rule, but the concept of sin is when you miss the mark of being what you were created to be, or who you were created to be. And you were created to be the embodiment and the experience of God manifested as yourself. As Laura, as Clarissa, as Silka, as Keylee, as Fran, as Keisha. There's no greater gift that you could give to the divine than to release the fragrance of who you are, manifested as God in the universe. And so I released the obligation to measure myself against the standard of anyone outside of who I am this year, honestly, to be real. And it has happened in stages. And so, my mother, my parents held a big role. And, as millennials, I don't know how many of us, or what the breakdown is. I think the majority of us are millennials. I was thinking about this during my quiet time, that on one end, we were taught to have undivided attention on the person who was in the front of the class, who was teaching us, our pastors, our teachers, our mentors. Have undivided attention. Don't open your mouth, don't speak, sit at their feet and be taught. And then we were also taught to multitask. So here are the two lies that we've been socialized to believe: that our undivided attention should be on someone else because they hold the answers to what we need. Simultaneously, while having this undivided attention, you're supposed to multitask and be productive in many ways. And what I'm learning is, as I'm releasing some of this stuff, is that the truth is we should be monotasking. That means something should be so important to you that nothing else can take up the time, because you know that this is deserving of your energy and your time and your resources right now. And so we have to begin to release this idea that I'm going to give my undivided attention to someone else. And I'm just going to be real right here. Someone else's vision, someone else's job, someone else's dream. Have undivided attention to that and allegiance to that while also multitasking. So now we're in this pandemic where, on top of working your job while you're stuck in the house, you've been fed to believe and made to feel guilty or like you have sinned and been wasteful because you're not multitasking now, trying to do multiple things to also meet your needs and find your passion. And what I'm submitting to us today is that we can either do both, and if that's what you choose to do, or we can monotask and focus on the thing that's inside of us to do, and to bring that seed, that dream that's inside of us to life. Or we can continue to invest in someone else's dream, and that's really the decision that we get to make. And I think where we have to land is that all of it can be a beautiful story. I'm not better because I want to be an entrepreneur, and you're not worse because you want to work at a job where you have a guaranteed paycheck. It's not even really about that. It's about the experience. Where are you experiencing freedom? Where are you living to your highest potential? Because that is what you're here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think alignment too, like what you are talking about is also falling in love with yourself and what it is, what your dream is. So that is the monotask, living your life as
that is the monotask.
That's the monotask, because if you're constantly butting up against rejections of yourself, betrayal of yourself, you're not going to get anywhere where you're happy. So your one task is to be true to yourself, to fall in love with yourself. And people always talk about this in buzzwords, but it's not like it's not just this lovey-dovey, soft, rainbows and butterflies and kisses and, cotton candy thing. It is actual, like a radical purgative love, because there are things that you are going to have to release, and there are things that you're going to have to integrate.
Yeah.
That's your one job.
Yeah. I found that the power of meditation, I'm discovering the power of meditation is getting beyond my anxiety or my mindfulness. Like, oh, I'm here because I want to be mindful and I just need to have quiet time for me. And what I've started to experience is exposure in my meditation, to say, meditation in the Tibetan language means to become familiar with. And I think that there are several things in meditation that we can become familiar with, depending on where we are. We can become familiar with who we could be. We can become familiar with who we currently are and the things that we do need to begin to release. We can become familiar with the future that we want to have for ourselves and begin to live into that, right? And then there's a piece of that in my spiritual journey that has always held on to prayer, right? And so prayer to me growing up was where I petitioned God for something, where I asked God for something, or I confessed something. Here we go back to this, sin consciousness, right? In order to be worthy to come before, God, I had to confess something. And what I'm learning is that meditation is where I become familiar with who I am and what is not necessarily pretty about me. Okay. And then I don't take on the challenge and the weight of changing myself, right? Because that's ego trying to change ego. Ego can't change ego. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what I had to learn was that I meditate on it to become familiar with it. And then I surrender to it in prayer. Why? Because when you surrender to it, you find your life. You can't find your life when you're fighting against something. Fighting only brings more fighting. But if I surrender to it, I can ride it to the life that I want to live for myself. But we keep fighting against those things in us that make us nervous. Whoa, I'm actually a liar. Wow, I'm actually super inconsistent. Wow, I actually am a cheater. whatever the case may be. All right. I deceive people, whatever the case is. You have to be willing to become familiar with that thing and surrender to it at the same time. Why? I grew up here reading the Bible that said, those that try to keep their life will lose it, but those that give their life will find eternal life. Why? Because you're holding on to the reality that you have right now, and it's killing us. It's killing us because this isn't what we designed for ourselves. But if we'll release that, if we'll surrender to it, then we can find power and actually find our real life. But we want to hold on to what we have and what we've experienced, and that's understandable. But sis, I'm just gonna say it because Keisha convinced me to put something in my mug, and I probably shouldn't have did that. But I'm just gonna tell you straight up.
Hold on, I suggested.
Don't do that.
Lightly I said
power suggestion. You know what you did. Just going on back on mute, sis. Let me get it. Okay. Listen, sis, if you miss anything that I said today, all right, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to anybody else here. I'm talking to you. If you miss anything that has been said today, I want you to know that the power is in you right now. Everything that you need is already on the inside of you. You just have to make a choice to utilize that. As a painter, no painter uses all their tools at one time, but you need to know that you have access to it. So I would challenge you to become a steward of your gifts, to take inventory of all that you have. So at the right moment, you can use what is necessary to begin to paint the life that you want for yourself. Stop giving it over to somebody else. Take it for yourself. Take the power for you right now. And that's all I really got to say. I'm just going ahead and go back on mute.
Wait, so there's a question for Earlene, which I think is a very vulnerable question. I will put this forward. It is a vulnerable question, but I think it's a powerful question. And it aligns with what you just said, Fran. Earlene would like to know, what does surrendering look like for each of you? And I do want to say, if you have a question, please type it in the chat and I will be sure that we get to it. So that's the first question. What does surrendering look like for both of you?
I had to learn to cry. So I have a Capricorn moon. I don't know how many of you are into astrology, but yes, Teresa, we talk about this literally every time we talk about this Capricorn issue. But it's not an issue. It's it is my superpower, and I had to learn to see it that way. But basically, I was a highly sensitive child because I'm intuitive. I am highly sensitive today because I'm intuitive. I was highly sensitive the whole time, but basically I had learned ways to numb myself. And I had to learn to cry. I had to learn to view my emotions as this sort of roadmap for me to understand where I was brushing up against things that weren't working for me, or brushing up against things that were working for me, that could work for me, that I needed to do more of. I just had to use my emotions that way. And all of those years that I spent, hiding my tears when something bothered me, or feeling shame for needing things, feeling shame for wanting things, feeling shame just for having emotions, I had to learn that they're teaching me things every day. And when I learned to cry again, because I used to cry for everything when I was little. If I was displeased, I cried. And I had to learn that it was okay to do that again. And it was okay to surrender to feeling, because there's nothing in me that is shameful. There is nothing in having emotions that is shameful. I'm here to have my needs met. You have to have some sense of entitlement in this country. And they teach you that as a Black woman, you shouldn't. But literally, you're put on this earth. Yes, you have a mission, but you're also here to have your needs met. So when I learned to cry, I was meeting my own emotional need. I was treating myself as the one with the power, the one I love the most, because, you wait for a partner. You're like, I just want a boo I can cry with. I just want, I want somebody with strong shoulders. I just want somebody who I just want a home. I just want a shelter. I just want someone I can be vulnerable with. And it's like, are you vulnerable with yourself? I certainly wasn't. Every time I wanted to cry, I'd be like, can't do that shit. And you can, and you should. So I really had to learn how to cry because I couldn't expect the world or anybody else to cradle me. There should always be people who do. I don't believe in that, oh, you have to be completely healed before you get into any sort of relationship, or how can anybody love you if you don't love yourself? But there is work that you need to do to validate yourself and validate your emotions and validate everything that it is that you're feeling. You can only surrender to something when you acknowledge it. So that's that act of witnessing again.
Keylee and I are going to become friends. I don't think she knows it yet because she has language that I don't know how to describe it in that way, but that is absolutely correct. I think for me.
Oh, we need to talk.
Yeah, we definitely.
About religion, because no, we have to
talk.
Girl,
don't get me started on the religion
I was raised in a church where I didn't have sin. We didn't have sin. Yes.
How they make y'all pay y'all tithes? Okay, anyway, never mind. We'll talk about something else.
About to say, y'all, I love y'all, but we come on with the question.
Listen, here's my quick answer to that. My quick answer to how I surrender is my process of learning to surrender came through brokenness. Literally, I held on so long that my life was falling apart. That's how long I held on. So I'm offering myself up as a cautionary tale. And the reason why is because of my sexuality. I obviously, as a Christian, as a Southern American, Black American Christian, gay where? Excuse me, who? You better hide it and be miserable like the rest of us. What's wrong with you? Right? And so I held on to that. And what I ended up doing was achieving the highest level in every other area of my life to cover the fact that I'm a lesbian. And when I got the answer that I was face to face with the fact that you've been fighting, girl, you done went on all kind of fasts, you done went up to the altar mad times, you repenting after that time, every time you text a young lady, or whatever, this is miserable, right? There's another scripture in the Bible that says that you can fall on the rock and be broken, or the rock can fall on you and you can be crushed. I am in a place in my life where I would rather fall on the rock and be broken, break myself open so that I can see everything as it is and make a choice than for the rock to fall on me and the circumstances of life to crush me without any of my input. And so surrender for me came as a lesson to say that I have control about how I am broken, to see brokenness as empowerment rather than to be crushed and be immobilized. Because I don't want to be immobilized. I want to continue to move. And so surrender for me is a process of saying, I am choosing to be broken open so that I can see all that I am, good, bad, ugly, right, wrong, up, down. I want to see all of the shadings of me and I want to fall in love with her. I want to be madly in love with all of the bumps and the everything. I am currently living my fantasy in love with the woman of my dreams. We are engaged. She put a ring on it, y'all. Y'all see that? It is nice too. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. I am living in that because I did exactly what Keylee talked about. I loved myself first. I love the fact that I was only making X amount of dollars a year. I love the fact that I wore these type of clothes and that I have a funny personality and, I think I'm pretty witty and all of that. I fell in love with myself. I had a crush on me, but I had to surrender to that person. I had to surrender to that friend. I had to be broken open to expose what were the things that I believed about myself and what was stuff that was put upon me by my parents. And by 4 generations, because especially in this group, I know y'all get real deep, right? We love to say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Listen, let me tell you something about that saying now. I love it. I understand it. I identify with it. But be careful about the pressure of pleasing those that came before you because of the sacrifice that they gave. All right. I love giving honor and respect and do deference to those that help create the path that I was able to walk on, the shoulders that I stand on, literally. I honestly believe that I come as one and I stand as 10,000, but I got that master's degree. I got that job. I did the work to become the person that I am that is manifesting that. So even while you're giving respect and you're acknowledging those that were helpful on your journey, don't forget to neglect that you did the work. It's you. You made that choice. Okay. You gave up those nights. It's you. And you can also love yourself for the decisions that you made. I often say this now, I'm be quiet. I say this when I find something, find a little piece of money or something. I say, I love when I think about myself in the future. How are you thinking about yourself in the future? What things are you putting away so that when you find them weeks or months or years from now, you can say, wow, even then I was thinking about myself. I was loving who I am. Okay. And so, that's just a piece of it, that I would rather fall on the rock and be broken open so that I can explore it and make a decision rather than for something to follow me and and get crushed.
Yeah, I think something that both of you have touched on that I think is super powerful is this concept that surrender is not only a choice, but it's deliberate. And it takes work and a choice that you make every single day. And Fran, it's interesting that you mentioned Bay because there is a question about relationships from Silka. The question is, how did you both deal with or work through changes that arise when relationships come into your life? And so I guess, especially in alignment with what we've been talking about, surrender, unlearning, becoming like living from our center, what are some ways that shifted for you or grew for you when you entered relationships?
What kind of relationships?
It just
Any
saying
relationship?
relationship. So I guess whatever relationship you choose to talk about.
I need a second to reflect on that because has anybody ever experienced like someone doing construction in your area and then when the building goes up, you have a hard time remembering what it looked like before that building went up?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of my life right now. I don't remember because I'm so busy monotasking and loving the life that I have right now that it's hard for me I don't really have a frame of reference for what it looked like before because I have built a life that I love. But I will say this, that when it comes to those relationships that are people who are trying to figure out how they engage with the new you, the you that you decided to become, I believe in making space for people to figure that out. Everyone doesn't believe in that. Some people are very much like either get with it or get lost. I tend to be an inviting you along on this journey with me kind of person. And so when it comes to those type of relationships, I believe in, as I am expanding and growing, making space for other people to also join me on that journey. But that doesn't mean that I stop where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain it to you. I have conversations with you about it. But I'm not gonna stop. Now on the romantic side in relationships, and it could just be this way because we're in a global pandemic and we've been stuck in the house together. But when you enter an intimate relationship with someone and you share space with them, what you end up giving up is the ability to hide. And so a lot of my work in surrendering has been because I am in a serious relationship. I live with my partner. We're building a life together, and I cannot hide from her the truth of who I am. If I am inconsistent, she'll know. If I am a liar, she'll know. If I'm a cheater, she'll know. I can't hide anything from her. And so it again is this paradigm of, are you going to own it? Or are you going to pretend like it doesn't exist? And so a lot of the relationship shifting that has to go on is both of you coming to the center and admitting that you're fucked up, pretty much. That's really just what it comes down to. And then deciding that I love that about you. I love that about you. I know the things about Keylee that other people are kind of like, oh, she's so competitive. And I'm like, I know, I love that shit. Yes, let's kill it. Hey, let's go. And she knows things about me. And I'm gonna speak for her, but you confirm in the chat box now. Don't leave me out here on this ledge. But there are things about me that she sees, and everybody else is going, "Ooh, friend," and she's going, "That's it right there." Because that piece, that thing that is negative right there, also makes up for the part of me that she loves. And so when we're talking about romantic relationships, and maybe even outside of romantic relationships, but even partnerships, because I think partnership is another level of relationship, whether or not it is an intimate, romantic relationship or not. When you partner with someone, business partners, life partners, soulmates, in that kind of way, where you know that you're supposed to be with this person. The only way that that will work out is if you're willing to own what's ugly about you and see what's ugly about them and go, that shit is what makes you you, and that's why I'm here. And so stop expecting the most out of people. That's really what it's all about in relationships. Stop expecting that everybody is going to, I can't even say show up the way that you'll show up, because the truth is, if it wasn't you, you probably wouldn't show up in that way either. If we're going to be real about it, you know what I'm saying? And so you have to leave space for people's humanity. My mom still hasn't accepted the fact that I'm a lesbian yet. But guess what I do? I leave space for her humanity, so that at any point she's ready to change her mind, we can have that relationship. And I also leave it a place where I'm multitasking and loving myself so hard that I don't even remember the pain of what happened between her and I earlier in my teens, when I was figuring out what was going on with me sexually. Why? Because I have to take back that authority over that area of my life. I want that. I want to make the choices about what happens there.
And I love how you were like, I need a minute to think about this answer. And yet here we are with like,
girl, I was just
right.
tossing it.
And I love it, because I love it. So Keylee, do you have a response to that question? Like, what are ways that you've seen this journey for yourself in relationships?
Yeah. So that construction analogy that you started using, when you're doing construction, you inconvenience people. It's not always convenient. You inconvenience people because you're not there in the ways that they are used to. Like, if you have people pleasing tendencies, I sure have some people pleasing tendencies. I work on them, so I left it behind. I keep trying to leave it behind, but I have people pleasing tendencies, and it inconveniences people when I stop showing up for their things and bending backwards and doing all these things that people don't always do for me. It inconveniences people, and it has inconvenienced people on my journey as I grow. Something else that you really touched on was this idea of accountability. So when you agree to be in relation with others, you are agreeing to a certain level of accountability. What degree of accountability depends on whether or not they're a qualified person and what you agree on mutually. So you can't you might have to redefine terms in your relationships if you want them to continue as you go on any sort of growth journey. And what happens in romantic relationships, again, depends a lot on accountability. And I see that in the divide. Like, a lot of my clients are heterosexual Black femmes, and they try to deal with men of all colors, but they try to deal with Black men a lot of times. And where the relationship tends to fall down is the level of accountability they are willing to have to each other. They have to have a defined vision. They have to have an agreement. This is how I'm going to show up for you. This is how you're going to show up for me. Let's work towards that every day. If you fall down, you fall down, because again, you have to leave room for that humanity, like you said, Fran. But there's the expectation. And the outcome of whatever relationship, whatever you're trying to build, whatever you're trying to have, whatever you're trying to sustain and maintain, depends on the level of focus that you're putting into it. Like this monotasking thing, if part of you being your best self includes having a loving, healthy, romantic relationship, then that's work that you're doing all of the time. It's not like, I'm just gonna drop it here, pick it up tomorrow. I'm gonna, you can't do that. It's not gonna work how you want it to if you do that. The friendships, people are probably going to be used to you bending over backwards or being toxic, and you might have to reintroduce yourself. Let me reintroduce myself. This is who I am now. Like, I know people, I'm sure people were shocked when I became a hippie. Like, people think I'm a hippie. I'm not who I was before, but I done became a hippie. I used to work in tech. What? Like, tech sales, as a matter of fact. What? I became a hippie. And they're like, who is she? What is that? Me. I'm gonna have to reintroduce myself. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm not mad at you if you don't like it. You're not obligated to like it. But this is who I am, and this is who I stand in, because I am in love with myself. And I have to keep being in love with myself. I can't stop being in love with myself. I can't betray myself to give you the love that you think you want from me. So that's accountability. That's inconveniencing people. That's relationships when you're growing. The relationships have to grow too.
So unfortunately, we have 4 more minutes left.
I really thought we had an hour and then time after for Q&A, but
wait, what time did we start?
At 10.
Started at 10.
It's 10:55. We only got 5 minutes left. But people have been asking questions in the chat. So the Q&A kind of was happening simultaneously. All the questions that were just asked were from the chat. Clarissa, I think that question is amazing. I don't know if it's going to be answered in 4 minutes. And so, because it's a deep, y'all see that question in the chat?
Yeah.
Like, that's a...
Okay, I'm gonna go.
But so there are 2 things that I did want to do before we wrapped up. I do want you to, and Clarissa, I'll figure out where to fit your question in. Let me do these 2 things first, and then I'll circle back to your question. Keylee and Fran, I'd love for you to name for people where they can find you if they want to continue hearing from you, if they want to continue working with you, and if you want to drop like your information in the chat, that would be great. And then I did want to invite people who have been listening to just name either like their gratitude to Keylee and Fran, because they both have been beautifully vulnerable with us this morning. Whether that be you unmuting yourself and saying a word of gratitude or speaking back to Fran and Keylee, or putting it in the chat, either or. So let's start with Fran and Keylee naming where can people find you? What are some ways that they can work with you? And then I'll invite everyone who participated to be able to speak back to both Fran and Keylee. So Fran and Keylee, where can people find you?
So I'm Keylee Miracle on everything, including Clubhouse. So I'm feeling bougie now. Yeah. So I am Keylee Miracle on everything. Yes, Miracle is my real name. Yes, I came here with a mission. Did I want to? But it's KeyleeMiracle.com, Keylee Miracle on everything. I am a Reiki practitioner. I'm an intuitive. I do readings. I do consultation. I do alignment coaching. Come through.
I have put my information in the chat box. You can find me on Instagram at Fran_me_world. I do hold a weekly live on Wednesday called Fill Up with Fran every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we explore one idea, one concept, one thing that can help take you from idea to launch, really leaning into the person who can make your wildest dreams come true. I'm also a vision coach. You can go on my profile, click the link in the bio, click 12-minute leap, and we can set up a free 12-minute consultation where we can begin to talk about things that you can do to really hone or identify what your actual vision is, clearing out the noise and getting clear about what you actually want. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Okay, so participants, this is now your time. Arlene, I see you already got started in the chat. Laura, I see you already got started in the chat. But if there's anyone who wanted to unmute themselves and say a word of gratitude to both Keylee and Fran, or speak back to them, now is the time. We're gonna allow like 2 or 3 minutes for that to happen. Is there anyone in particular?
I do. I want to say thank you. So Keylee and Fran, thank you for the tea this morning. It was so enriching to my spirit. I think there's something so powerful about being in a space where it feels like a really beautiful mirror, like a polished mirror. And being in this space with the both of you today really felt like that. I really felt uplifted and able to just really think about so many things. So I have immense gratitude. Thank you, Keisha, for creating this platform, space, and time.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful. And I am just so full right now. Thank you for filling my cup. And I love that it's like Black women filling my cup. Beautiful, brilliant Black women.
I have to say thank you to you both. And I just want to affirm that, like, y'all are doing what y'all are supposed to be doing. Like, I was so moved, and just like all the gems y'all dropped, and I'm like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Like, so good. And I just want to affirm that, like, y'all are where y'all need to be. This is the work, this is y'all calling. And Fran, I want to speak to you really quick because I haven't seen you in months. And I just want to name, like, witnessing your growth is so beautiful. I remember sitting with you and writing workshops and you being like, I'm not really sure how I want to get this out. Like, I don't know. And then to see you today be like, this is who I am. This is what I do. You can reach out to me. We can have a 12-minute consultation and I can help you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is just wonderful seeing you grow in that way, sis. So thank you both so much.
I'll go. This was just such a beautiful way to spend my rising today with all of y'all and with both of you just being so open and so vulnerable. And it's just beautiful watching people shine, just like Clarissa said, like in their purpose, like doing exactly what they're meant to do. Like, it was just like I felt like it was shining through the screen like the whole time. And y'all just said so many things that resonated with me. And it always feels good to hear that you're not alone on your journey and that people have things that are similar to you. And there's just so much we can learn from each other. And so I just feel so full. Like Arlen said, like my cup is full, and thank y'all beautiful Black women for filling it up for me today.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and end. Clarissa, what I'm gonna do is post your question on our Harambe Collective site and add Keylee and Fran so that they can both respond to it and then also get a conversation with other members. Thank you all for coming. I am living my dream as a talk show host, and so thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate it. If you are interested in learning more about the Harambe Collective, feel free to follow us on Instagram. It is the Harambe Collective on Instagram, or you can visit our website. But this is going to become a monthly thing. I have decided that it will become a monthly, every second Saturday situation. And so if you are a Harambe Collective member and you would like to be in conversation, which I think is going to be the name of it. I don't think it's going to be called What's the Tea? I think it's going to be called In Conversation. So if you would like to be in conversation, feel free to let me know. Any last thoughts before we head out of here, y'all? And enjoy the rest of our Saturday.
I just want just one thing. To Clarissa's point of saying, like, just a matter of months ago, I was a different person. Just as a closeout, you can become a new person instantly. There's not an amount of time that it takes in order for you to reimagine yourself. You can step into that at whatever point that you are willing to be broken open, see yourself, surrender to it, and envision a new life for yourself. And so, yes, a couple months ago, I was that friend, and now I am a new friend. And I'm not going to allow anybody to hold me to who I was. And so it can feel a little bit, all over the place and sporadic, but who cares? Because I have the power to instantly change who I am and what I am and how I show up in this world. And so, for anyone who might be struggling with that, like, oh, just 6 months ago, I said that. So say something new, see something new, be something new. And it can happen like that and own that. There's no time for it.
Those people that you inconvenience, don't let them tell you who you are and who you're going to be. Just, they know the old you.
Yeah. Matter of fact, tell them the price just went up because now I'm new.
Period.
Yeah.
We're getting out of here. I love every single one of y'all. I appreciate all of you. Our Broadway Collective member, the playback will be available. I will be posting that today, so you'll get to go back and watch it. Have a beautiful rest of your Saturday, y'all. I love you. And I'll see you at the next one, at the next In Conversation in January. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Have a
Thank you
great
so
day.
much, Keisha. And thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies.